That's a 1-2 fastball for strike three. 1-2. Swing and a miss, strike three.
Down in the strike zone and especially down and away. Wow, what a curveball there, slider.
And there is a great curveball building on a career high for Montero. 8 strikeouts on 0-2. And that is the ball game.
So this Mariners game just keeps reminding me of things that one of the best fantasy baseball strategies of this season is to add any starter going up against the Mariners, whether it's a Cy Young starter or it's a +5 ERA guy, and that is exactly what happened. And my strategy is partially the reason why I'm the top 3 for fantasy baseball, but unfortunately, everyone else in the league has picked that up, so I guess everything else is going to even out. But good evening, everyone. This is the Rooftop Sports. I am joined here by a good old friend of mine, Trident Podcast. It has been a long time. Trident, how have you been? It has been 4 months.
Yeah, it has certainly been a while. I've been better than this game. Certainly, this was kind of a throwback to what we've seen the Mariners do before the trade deadline a little bit. So this was certainly a disappointing game, disappointing one to watch. Better than that, I've been doing great. Can't complain.
Yeah, absolutely. But Mariners lost, so that it ain't fun. And you can't even blame Castillo for it, and we're going to get into it in just a few moments. Now, before we do, please not only hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification for both of our channels, but also use that promo code JSTrident to get your $20 off on SeatGeek, because we got some Mariners home games coming up, whether you want to see the George Kirby and the Scooball matchup, possible 2 Cy Young matchups for tomorrow, or whenever you see this video, and also the Mets series coming up. So there are several opportunities to save $20 and use the JS Trident promo code. Now let's get into it. So the Mariners unfortunately lose 4-2 after winning the series against Philadelphia. And Luis Castillo for himself, unfortunately, he suffers the loss, but it's not really his fault at all. Yes, he gave up the 3 runs, but he pitched with 9 strikeouts. So he actually pitched pretty well today. I mean, when you only score 1 run for Luis Castillo and then the second run in the 9th inning, you're not really going to win many games with just 2 runs unless Castillo pitched even better than how he did. And it was also backed up with Montero, who is known to have a 5+ ERA, and his win-loss record isn't great either. 1-5, or now it's probably 2-5. 8 strikeouts on the Mariners, and the trend just continues where maybe it's all feelings-based, but I just feel that anyone can pitch against the Mariners, especially when, the Mariners are like a bottom 5 offensive team. It's anyone's game, really. So tried anything else that you saw between those 2 pitchers and this offense?
But yeah, Castillo was fine. Like you said, 9 strikeouts in 6 innings, was 1 away from his first double-digit strikeout performance of the year. Unfortunately, just a lot of ground balls found holes against Castillo, and then Raley had an error on a play he should have made. You could probably make a legit case the Tigers should have had 1 run off of them. You never want to say 0 because bloops do happen. It's baseball. But you could have made a case Castillo could have only given up 1 run in that outing. He certainly was not the problem tonight. Getting 1 run off Montero was the problem. He's just not been good this year. I believe he is like the Tigers' 7th or 8th rated, I don't know if prospect or pitching prospect, but so someone that maybe with some upside. But when you're at this stage of the season, you've got to hit guys like that. And, I was forgiving yesterday when they lost to Zach, or not yesterday, but Sunday when they lost to Zach Wheeler. Wheeler's really good. You won the series. It happens. Not going to lose sleep over it. Not going to lose sleep over any of these, but, this is one you got to get. And you face Tariq Skubal tomorrow. So it's going to be a really tough matchup. It would have been really nice to get this win going into tomorrow's game. The problem today was offense. Pretty simple. Offense was the issue.
It was an absolute issue, and we're going to go over that box score and looking at it, because unfortunately I didn't watch the game because I was training for my softball tournament, which is this Saturday. So if anyone wishes me the best of luck. But anyways, we got Victor Robles was 1 for 3, so batting .333, so a little bit I guess, better than everyone else. Randy Arozarena disappointed. Yes, he got the walk, but he went 0 for 3, including a strikeout. The dumper also struggled with 2 strikeouts. Justin Turner, which we will talk about in moments, he struck out today. Cade Marlowe at least scored a run. Jorge Polanco at least got the RBI, which was kind of an accident. Luke Raley was pretty much the guy that hit the home run. He went 1 for 3. Mitch Garver, we'll talk about that in moments. He struck out. Mitch Haniger, he went 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. Dylan Moore 1 for 3, but struck out twice. And Josh Rojas 1 for 3. Nothing much special, but looking at that, Mitch Haniger is the most painful to see. Like, when I compared his numbers with 2010 Ken Griffey Jr., it still wasn't that bad as Griffey, but it's still pretty bad. And if it weren't for his home runs, he would be pretty close to being as bad as 2010 Ken Griffey Jr. But as much as we love Mitch Haniger, it's painful to just completely watch him not play up to that level that we were all hoping. Like, I will eat my words that my prediction was he was going to do another 2021 because he's healthy, quote, every 3 years. And he's been healthy-ish, but he just hasn't performed at all.
Isn't that kind of funny that we've actually gotten healthy Haniger, but hasn't really performed? He's been okay. Last couple of weeks, he swung the bat better, certainly. So I don't mind him being in the lineup necessarily, and especially with Julio out and everything the team's going through right now. I get it. There's just not much else to run out there at the moment. I wouldn't mind, let Cade Marlowe have a start or something like that. I think you could do that, but I get it. And he's been swinging the bat better recently. He's actually, and weird that he's hit righties actually decent, but he can't hit lefties, which is kind of what you needed him to do this year, was kind of be a lefty mashing part-time DH and part-time outfielder. And he hasn't hit lefties. He's hit righties. So it's been a weird year for Mitch, for sure. Both all the Mitches on this team. And yeah, to your point about that second run, and we'll talk about the pinch hitting decision, I'm sure, but probably shouldn't have even gotten there because that Polanco fly ball should have been caught in center field or right field. So kind of funny how that ended up playing out a little bit.
Yeah, and actually, while you were talking about that, I actually looked up Mitch Haniger's numbers just to see if whatever I was saying was being backed up by numbers. It was until July 24th, but then after that trade for Randy Arozarena, Mitch Haniger has had 2 home runs, at least 6 walks to 8 strikeouts, batted .250, a 400 OBP. But of course, those numbers are going to dip after today since he didn't even get anything. So maybe when Julio is back and JP Crawford is back, maybe that will provide Mitch Haniger some little bit more protection and less pressure. So I think that is something to look forward to, hopefully, and hopefully he will rise to the occasion this time with the return of some critical pieces. And boy, we definitely need Julio Rodriguez back and JP Crawford back, because as soon as this team is healthy, maybe they can make some kind of a run in late August to September. But it's not like we're blaming the injuries. I think even with these injuries, I still believe that the Mariners can salvage these. It's just the guys that are playing right now, they just got to step up. And we've seen it, like Victor Robles. He has stepped up. Even Polanco's been playing a little bit more decent than he normally does play. So it's not like we're going to blame the injuries for these issues. It's just a tough stretch, but we just got to see less swing and misses, because that's what we are still seeing that I've noticed. Especially it's evident when Mariners are striking out. I think they struck out 12 times. They struck out 14 times today. So there is I didn't watch the game, but I have seen it in previous where Mariners just make these bunch of silly swings. And when we see though, we're like, you didn't have to swing at that kind of feeling.
Yeah, and it's, talking about injuries too. Houston's dealing with it also, right? Kyle Tucker hasn't played since June somewhere. Luis Garcia's been out. They've been missing Verlander. So at the end of the year, we can't look at it's been frustrating. It would be nice to have Julio in there, but the Astros are dealing with that too, and Texas has had injuries as well. So, kind of just something that's part of the game. Unfortunately, you hope it doesn't happen, right? Like, you hope you can go in the postseason, be healthy, be hot and everything and good to go. But yeah, today was just kind of offensively reverting to the old Mariners. a little bit. It was a lot of strikeouts, bad contact. I mean, actually, funny enough, early on, I thought they had some decent contact, and then just kind of went downhill after that. So, just kind of this reminded me of the Angels games a little bit, where it was just feeble offensive at bats. Pitching was fine overall. I mean, Thornton giving up the home run kind of stinks. So, it wasn't perfect, but just kind of the vibes. Like I said, I'd be more okay if we weren't facing Skubal tomorrow. I'd probably be willing to throw this one out a little bit, but and I think as Mariner fans, we're just waiting for a spiral. It's just in the back of our minds. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think we always just kind of go like, great, now we're going to lose to Skubal. Then we'll get swept. The Mets will come in and sweep us. Then we're going to play Paul Skeens. You know what I mean? It just starts to unravel a little bit.
It really does. And at least until this meltdown may or may not happen, this season feels a lot like 1997, where the Mariners were kind of dangling with that first place, but they were bailed out by a horrible division when Texas had the off year. Don't even know what it was. It was probably injuries and underperformance. The Angels were the only ones that were really threatening, and even then they were struggling throughout the season. And look where we are now. Texas is having an off year, and you got Houston still dangling around, which, by the way, they did win. So that means now the Mariners only have a half-game lead on Houston. So winning tomorrow against Skubal will be more than critical, and it's a pretty bad combination because you got Skubal pitching tomorrow, and then you got George Kirby, where the feeling is he doesn't really get much run support. And on top of that, you got a Cy Young candidate pitching against the Mariners. So Mariners will have to find ways to get around that. Before we get to the next part of the video, here's a quick message from our sponsor, SoFi Bank. SoFi is an online bank and a personal financing company offering financial diverse products. They hold the naming rights to the home of the Los Angeles Rams and the Los Angeles Chargers, named SoFi Stadium. They offer amazing checking and savings accounts where you can get up to 4.6% on savings accounts. There are no monthly fees to maintain the accounts, and they have over 55,000 no-fee ATMs around the United States. You even have access to a budgeting program, stock trading, and insurance programs. Join SoFi and get $25 for joining and or $25 for opening a stock trading account. Links are available in the description. And thank you. And lastly, I am not a financial advisor, so either find a professional financial advisor or go with your own gut. Other notable things that happened was Justin Turner. He got hit in the hand. It did not look good. I was listening to it on the radio while practicing softball. It sounded really bad. I read the tweets. It said that he was in really big pain. But the good news is, per Ryan Divish, he did say that Justin Turner, the x-rays came out clean, so it looks like he should be okay. I will double check and make sure that is all correct. But when I read the tweet, and I will read it right now verbatim, Justin Turner doesn't have a broken hand. X-rays come back clean. So that is encouraging, but I would wonder if he's still going to at least miss a few days just to get that hand just all healed up and ready to go.
Yeah, probably be back. Hopefully for the Mets series, I think would be the hope. Kind of stinks. You could use him against Skubal tomorrow as a right-handed hitter. So it'd be nice to have him in there. And then, George Kirby going tomorrow certainly helps as well. I think tomorrow the hope is you just can scratch a run or two off Skubal, and Kirby's on his game and dominates. I'll be honest, I haven't looked at the Tigers' numbers much. I'm going to assume it's not a very good offense. The Tigers are one of those teams I just don't know a lot about. There's always a handful of teams that I watch. I'm like, man, I really don't know this roster, and the Tigers are definitely one of them. So, hopefully Kirby's on his game. And missing Turner, good news is not broken. You need all the bats you can get right now. So hopefully he is back by the Mets series, I think would be the hope. I mean, maybe he's in there tomorrow. I don't know, but I would doubt it.
I would think he's probably be more available for the third game. And Detroit's offense, they are still better than the Mariners. They are the bottom 11 in offense. So that means they are 19th or 20th overall in offense in runs scored. So, I mean, they still score more than the Mariners. So it's still going to be a challenge for the Mariners tomorrow, especially against Skubal, who is the potential Cy Young candidate, and he may very well get that. And other things, other keys to the game now that we got Turner out of the way, and thank goodness that he is okay, because when he got hit, I was being that total arrogant Mariner fan going, I told you we should have got Yandy Diaz just in case something like this happens, which they didn't get Yandy Diaz, of course. And I remember doing the show with Steve Silver, and when it was like that 1 hour, I was hitting the refresh button over and over again, like, did the Mariners get him? And there were like some fake tweets going, oh, the Yankees got him. I was like, no, he didn't. And fortunately, they didn't get him. But anyways, Mitch Garver. So the other interesting that happened after Jorge Polanco got that little bit of an accident RBI single, which scored in Cade Marlowe, which made it 4-2. So maybe there was a tease on maybe that Mitch Garver can redeem himself, because they brought him in to pinch hit, because they were bringing in, because they had a lefty. So that I didn't disagree with that decision, even though Mitch Garver isn't having a good season at all, and he's mentally kind of going through a really tough time. And especially Luke Raley, it looks like, I guess they did, Scott Service just didn't want Luke Raley going up against lefties, but I'm still standing that he should still get more at bat against lefties so he can learn how to play against the lefties. Fortunately, with that pinch hitting, Mitch Garver did strike out. And from what I heard, the at-bats didn't look good. And take it away, Jay Trident, and tell us, like, how did those at-bats look when Mitch Garver was batting?
Yeah, it was an awful at-bat, that's for sure. I won't defend the at-bat. I will defend the decision. Listen, the odds of Holton's a really good lefty. He is dominant on left-handed pitching. I'm with you on Raley. I would mind seeing him play more against lefties overall. Just he's not completely useless against them. But I didn't think that was a bad idea to go to Garver there. Now, I think we can look deeper than the numbers. Garver's hit lefties actually really well this year. I can certainly understand fans are going, it's more than just the numbers. It's the fact that he's looked lost the last few weeks. I certainly understand that for sure. It was probably a lose-lose spot, to be honest. It would have been nice. Maybe looking back now, it'd just be nice if Polanco's flyout would have been caught, because I sometimes hate having these debates, not from you or anything like that. We're talking about it, but just in general, because the issue tonight was, not scoring off Montero, obviously, but yeah, Garver looked awful in that at bat, no question about it. I don't think Raley necessarily would have gotten it done against Holton. I do get people that want Raley to bat there. He's certainly been swinging it a little better than Garver, but it's not like Raley's on a huge heater anyways. He's been playing a little bit better, but his overall numbers aren't amazing either. I guess you kind of point to it more of like a roster construction issue. You just don't have a lot of good options in those spots, right? Like, we're not talking about Gunnar Henderson versus, I don't know, Adley Rushman or something like that, or, Julio of August last year versus prime, A-Rod, or I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, we're talking
prime Suarez or something like
that.
Suarez.
We're talking about kind of mid players here. So it probably wouldn't have mattered. I don't think Raley would have gotten it done versus Holton. Listen, did I say on Twitter that Garver should bat there? I did, and I'll stand by that. It wasn't I necessarily expected, like, oh yeah, Garver's going deep here, no question, like, boom, tie game. But I think if you're going to roster Mitch Garver, that's probably where you need to use him. I know fans are like, well, it was a high leverage spot and he's been scuffling. Then what do? Like, I guess at that point you got to release him, because if you can only play him now with 48 games to go in low leverage situations, then you're wasting a roster spot. There are no more low leverage spots for this team. It's full go, 48 games to go, all hands on deck, essentially. So, I think at the end of the day, it's certainly not the reason they lost. I think Montero getting shut down by him was the reason they lost. And I don't think that was the worst decision to go to Garver there. I think you're kind of stuck between a little bit of a rock and a hard place with that managerial decision. And I've been more frustrated with Scott too. Maybe not quite to the rooftop level, but I've definitely shown a little bit more angst towards him. He's definitely had a little more head scratching decisions recently, in my opinion. I think some of the Taylor Saucedo stuff, like using him in a lot of higher leverage spots, has been a little questionable. Some of the team's collapse, that they played better. Of course, as soon as I made that video, they played better. But the way they played in that Angels series and stuff was certainly, I thought, not a great reflection on Scott. This isn't one I'm going to get too up in arms about. I think it was I try to look at what would I do in that spot, and I would have thought about it. I definitely would have thought about putting Garver out there and just hoping he runs into one.
I mean, I still would have put in Luke Raley, and it's only because like I looked at the at bats disparity between right-handed pitchers and lefties. It's a huge disparity. It's a near 200 at bat difference. So I would still like to see Luke Raley get some more shots at lefty, especially when Mariners are getting close to the playoffs. And I think there are times where you can't really use the whole matchup play as much. Like it's about going by your gut and see if he can handle that high leverage situation, because we've seen Luke Raley handle high leverage situations. So I would have preferred it, and I would like to see him hit more against lefties. Now for Mitch Garver, he does bat 230, which is still better than he bats against righties 141. He's a significantly better hitter definitely against the lefties. So yeah, the statistics really backed it up. I think given just the situation in the moment, I would have gone for Luke Raley. And the other thing I question is, I would wonder if that whole DM controversy has really got to him. Like, I really wonder if that has played a role into his mentality of like how he's approaching his swings, because even like after like everyone gave him that positive reinforcement that we still got your back, Mitch Garver. We still love you. We criticize you, but we love you because you're a part of this Mariners thing. And ever since, and he hasn't really batted that much since there's enough depth with Justin Turner as the designated hitter, but he has actually yet to get a hit ever since he exposed that whole DM controversy. So, I mean, do you think that this whole thing may be playing into a role why he may not be performing as of now? And do you think it could have been a reflection of how he batted today?
Yeah, he definitely looks lost, right? Like when he's batting. Now, again, we talked about this a little bit off camera. Like, you know, every player that's scuffling kind of looks lost and disinterested and not, you know, like just looks off, right? When they're struggling. It's just the nature of sports. We've said that Julio at times has looked disinterested and lost and frustrated when he's scuffling. So that may just be it, that Garver's struggling. So of course he's going to look like he's not, you know, mentally maybe right 100%, you know, on the field. I really try not to get into that because I just don't know what these guys are going through. It's definitely not helping him for sure. I don't think it's helped at all, but yeah, it does. He certainly does look like someone that may be inside his own head a little bit, you know, when you watch him play. Now, you know, everybody's one swing away, you know, and obviously this didn't happen, but, you know, Garver gets into one and drives out to left field, and we're sitting here having a completely different discussion about Mitch Garver and how, hey, he stayed locked in and, you know, look at this guy working hard. So, you know, you're always one swing away from getting out of that a little bit, but, you know, I don't know if it's how much it's affecting him. You know, every player's different. Some players can probably just let that roll off their back and they don't care. Others probably take it a little bit more, you know, to heart and things. So every human being is different, obviously, but, you know, hard to say. But yeah, he does look lost up there. It definitely, the at-bats have not been pretty, but Holton's also a really good reliever. So I don't know.
I mean, here's my message to you, Mitch Garver, and I'm just going to say it. And I said it, I was preaching it the entirety of that. I believe it was like Thursday when that whole controversy happened, or it could have been Wednesday, who knows? But Mitch Garver, all I'm going to say is the people that are sending death threats, here are the following. Either they're just heavily impulsive gamblers that put too much money on the Mariners for that day for whatever reason, or it was that game that screwed up their parlay. Number two, it's people just hiding behind a computer and smashing their keyboards to death.
These geeks hide behind their computers. What a bunch of spineless losers.
So my advice to you, Mitch Garver, don't let that get to you. Don't let a bunch of geeks or losers get to your head. It's just DMs, man, and use it as motivation to get them to keep their mouth shut. And maybe some will apologize. Like, for example, like if you hit that home run, people will forget about the Boston game and they'll backtrack going, okay, I shouldn't have sent the death threats. Although maybe he did use his motivation. So that's my encouragement to you, Mitch Garver, is use his motivation, prove the haters wrong, because the Mariners definitely do need your contributions, because Cal Raleigh cannot do it all as a catcher. You're the backup catcher for the time being. And now that Justin Turner might miss a few games, we need you to step up. So don't let the DMs get to you.
Yep. Do your best. Try to forget it. No, it's just a few whack jobs that are, don't have their heads on right. And, know that most people are good human beings. As crazy as it seems, this world is, I think, mostly good. And most people, listen, I might say you're struggling, but, I support all these guys as humans. I don't want anything bad to happen to any of them. It's just a game at the end of the day. So it's frustrating when our team isn't doing well, I guess, they're in first place, shouldn't say not doing well, but in the moment today, like not doing well. But I agree. Just, use his motivation, see if you can get this turned around. And listen, one nice thing about being an independent race, look at a guy like Adam Frazier. I talked about this in a video the other day. He was pretty bad in 2022, but man, I'll never forget that double that he hit against Toronto. Percy Harvin was awful for the Seahawks, played in 3 games, cost a first-round pick. Yet, you know what? Percy's got a special place for that, for that Super Bowl performance. So one nice thing is when you're in that race, man, if Mitch Garver has a walk-off home run to clinch a playoff berth, he will not be hated. You know what I mean? So not that when I mean, hey, the death threats are obviously disgusting and awful. I'm talking though, like just fans that have not liked what he's done on the field this year.
Yeah. Like, we've already seen it before. Like Mitch Garver has made up for his not so good season where he did hit that walk-off against the Atlanta Braves. And I remember doing that. And I remember when he blasted that home run, I nearly got a heart attack because it like came out of nowhere, because we were used to him striking out. And instead he hit this walk-off bomb against Atlanta. And by the way, Mariners seem to have a thing for hitting walk-off home runs against the Atlanta Braves. Because remember, they did it in 22 when Julio Rodriguez tied the game. And then Suarez hit that home run. And that was like, I think that was the moment when we all agreed, where we were like, Mariners are making the playoffs. There's no way they're going to blow this, especially with a game-winning home run like that and that kind of momentum. There's no way they're going to screw it up. And luckily they didn't. So, and hopefully
I would say that really was the game for me in 22. Not that it was like, oh my gosh, if they lose, they're not going to get in. But that was a game to me that really was like, okay, like when they're winning games like this team is going to get in the dance. That was kind of I don't want to say like the first game that year, but that was really like I think this is happening. I really do type game in 22. But we can get the walk-offs against the Braves, but the Tigers is just a different animal, unfortunately for us.
Yeah, Tigers seem to have the Mariners numbers. Like, if you remember, Mariners also beat up, or the Tigers also beat up the Mariners at the start of that second half from the All-Star break. And I remember I was so pumped up for the start of the series. I was like, it's just Tigers. Not that I was downplaying them, but it's a good opportunity to start hot in the second half, which they did eventually. If only they just did it against the Tigers a little bit earlier.
Yeah, and the Tigers are one of those teams, they kind of fall in that category of, are they good? No, but they're not terrible, and they're just good enough to give you fits, right? Like, and then you run into Scooble, which just makes them a little bit tougher. It reminds me of like the Mariners with Felix Hernandez, right? I was never on the other end of that, but I imagine for other teams, when you looked at the schedule and looked at the series, you're like, just avoid Felix. And when you saw Felix, you probably went, dang, that's going to make it a lot tougher. So, I'm not necessarily comparing the Tigers to those Mariners teams, but it's kind of that same vibe, right? Where it's like, you really want to avoid Scooble, and they're going to get him again in Detroit. So kind of frustrating that, not anybody's fault, nothing you can do about it, but just, you're going to get Scooble twice, and then you're going to get Skeens in Pittsburgh as well. So a little bit of a tough luck draw there for the Mariners. It's unfortunate, but you know what? I mean, you still got to get it done, right? Like you can't that we can. I can't sit here at the end of the year and go, well, if we would have faced Skubal in Detroit, we would have been in the playoffs. You know what I mean? It is what it is. I think the Astros had to face them too. So you just hope that you find a way.
Well, I'm one of those people where maybe if you said something like that, my twisted thinking is, well, if Scott Service if he just didn't put a lefty against like a Bryce Harper or Yordan Alvarez, maybe things would be a little bit different. So, I mean, there's like so many, the point is there's so many different factors where we can say, if this happened, this happens. If this happens, that happens. But the ultimate thing is we don't know, can't control the past. It's about what they can do tomorrow. And they are going up against Tariq Skubal. And I did take the time to go on his baseball savant.
Ooh,
he mixes up his pitches very well. It's terrifying to look at. 32% he uses that 97-mile-an-hour fastball. He uses that changeup. And I would imagine, like, this guy's not going to be easy to hit against. Like, we're talking a guy that pitches from a 97, goes all the way down to an 86, and he has a 97-mile-an-hour sinker and a slider, and it looks like he's still working on that curveball, 5%. So that is not going to be an easy one to go up against Tariq Skubal.
I guess the one good thing I can say now, it's been a little different the last couple weeks because Mariners offense has been better the last few weeks. But I used to kind of joke, what's the difference between facing Montero and Skubal? Every pitcher against the Mariners is dominating. So there's no dang difference going up against. It doesn't quite apply because the offense has been that's actually been a lot better. Tonight kind of sours it. But for the last couple of weeks, they've swung the bats better. So it doesn't quite fit the narrative as well. But I'm kind of going to try to look at it like that. Like, right, I mean, if you find a way to scratch out a couple runs, even the best pitchers give them up. Hopefully Kirby can dominate and maybe can win this thing 2-0. You never know. So Kirby should be able to handle the Tigers lineup. And hopefully someone runs into one against Skubal or a couple ground balls get through and boom, you get a 1 or 2-0 win.
Maybe start playing that small ball. Maybe like bunt if someone somehow accidentally gets on first or second base too, so you don't have to rely so much on swinging. And I looked up his record against the Mariners. He's had one start, 1-0, a 3.60 ERA. So he gave up 2 runs and he gave up a home run. I don't recall which game that was.
I don't remember him ever pitching against the Mariners. It must have been like early in his career because I know he's had some injuries. Can you see?
It was in 2021.
So, wow. That was, I didn't even know he was pitching in 2021. That was the year before.
Actually, now I want to look up and see which game that was.
Who hit the
Mariners versus? Let's find out. Like, I'm actually, while you look it up, maybe give me your thoughts on how George Kirby can approach this game.
Yeah, I'm going to look up some things on the Tigers lineup here. Let me see what their offensive, I'm just kind of curious how they rank because like I said, they're a team that I really just don't know a ton about. WRC plus, they are, let's see, Detroit. They're 26, so they're below the Mariners. They have a 90 WRC plus. Take a look at some of their numbers offensively here. See if they strike out a lot. I don't really see. I can't pull it up, but if I remember last year, they're actually a team that puts the ball in play, although they struck out a lot tonight. So I don't know. Let me see if I can pull that up.
Well, while you do, I actually found the game within like a few seconds, surprisingly, but here's what it was. It was May 19th of 2021. This was probably around the time Jared Kelenic made his major league debut. Well, he did against Cleveland. Mariners were at 20-23 at the time. Detroit was at 16-26. Detroit went on to win 6-2. And here was the lineup for the 2021 Mariners. It was Jared Kelenic, Mitch Haniger, Prime Haniger, Kyle Lewis, Kyle Seager, Tom Murphy, J.P. Crawford, Jack Mayfield, if anyone remembers Jack Mayfield out of all people, Sam Haggerty, and Jose Marmoleos. And Logan Gilbert was the pitcher. And unfortunately, Mariners did lose 6-2. And ironically, JT Chargois was also on the team at the time, and he also pitched that game. Now, I would like you to guess, out of all those 9 hitters, who hit that home run? Take a guess.
It's got to be Jack Mayfield, just for the lulls of that. It's got to be or I'm going to say Seager got him.
It was Seager, and that was his 9th home run of the season. And that was when he almost hit 40 home runs that season.
Yeah. Well, we won't get a Seager home run tomorrow. We know that. So it'll have
Nope.
to be somebody else.
Could totally
stepping up.
use him. We could. He had 35 home runs that season, and that's how he walked out.
Yeah, and then last thing I'll probably bring up just with the Tigers offense is they're kind of bottom in everything. They're not dead last in strikeouts, but they're 11th in terms of like the Mariners being number 1 in terms of amount of strikeouts. They're 11th. They don't hit a lot of home runs. They're just kind of blech across the board. So it's a lineup George Kirby should be able to beat, and that's kind of got to be the hope. And Mariners run into a couple, and you win the game hopefully.
I guess my strategy for the Mariners, or advice, and of course I'm not a baseball coach or anything. The only thing I am is I'm just a pitcher at a church softball league, and all I do is do slow pitch. I am one of the best pitchers, and it's backed up. People will believe me, so I'm not doing this out of cockiness. But my advice is try to find ways to foul. Like if you're not going to get a big hit off of him, at least like rack up the pitches against him. So maybe he'll get close to the 100 at such an early time. And then maybe the manager will say, okay, screw it, I'm pulling you out. If only the manager was Scott Service, he would have pulled him out after like 90 something.
There we go. And maybe, I don't know, I don't know if they're monitoring Scooble's pitch count. So maybe that is something, since the Tigers are, I don't know if they're out of it. I don't know what the wild card looks like. I'm sure they are, because the Mariners are like 5 out of the wild card. So the Tigers have got to be like 8 or 9, and Cleveland's running away at that division. So maybe they do
6 games below 500. So they're kind of somewhat dangling around.
Yeah, so maybe they pull Scooble after 5 or 6 because of pitch count. Like you said, one thing the Mariners have done a little bit, I don't know if they've done it as much recently, but they have worked pitchers' pitch counts high. They just haven't capitalized much off that. So I think that does kind of need to be the strategy. Now, if Scooble's just pumping strikes in there, it was kind of like on Sunday I saw people getting, well, they need to drive up Wheeler's pitch count. I'm like, he's throwing strikes. If guys are just pumping strikes, there's not much you can do there, and Scooble is going to do that more than likely. But hopefully he can foul some pitches off, get his pitch count up, scrap out a run against him over 5-6 innings. Kirby dominates, and there you go. So
Scooball's only pitched 100 pitches once this entire season, so maybe they do some kind of a pitching restriction. So biggest survival is going to be hit those foul balls, and if it's in the strike zone, I know it's easier said than done, because we're talking about 97-mile-an-hour fastballs. I mean, I can't hit one. If I try to hit one, I will guarantee break my back.
Right.
So I guess the best thing to do is hit the foul balls if you can, unless use a 97-mile-an-hour fastball and use it to get it out of the stadium. I don't know, but hopefully Mariners can find a way to figure that out. And most importantly, if they can win this game, they can win the game after that, then that could make up for losing this game. But man, it would have been nice if the Mariners just won this game, so we could just look at the Scooball game as like, meh, it was Scooball anyway. Instead, we have to go, oh crap, we have to win the last 2 games, because as of now, it looks like a 1 out of 3 right now. But if we get 2 out of 3, well, I mean, that's the only choice the Mariners really have. So hopefully they can win, or at least just win the last game, so at least you don't have a losing momentum against the Mets, because the Mets are also contenders as well. So we'll have to see how it goes, but hopefully Mariners can respond and step up against the Scooball. We're talking about the Cy Young Award candidate. And any final thoughts that you have, J Trident Podcast, because we will be ending this show real soon.
No, I think we got it all out. Just hope they win tomorrow. Find a way. You kind of, like I said, you kind of got to get it now after, today was one to get. You kind of today and then Thursday. Now, it's not must win, but it feels like you got to kind of make up for today a little bit. So we'll see.
Got to make up more than today, because you got to, I would say you win. Yeah. You got to win this series to kind of maybe make up for Boston, because that was a disaster of a series.
Well, we're still trying to make up for the Angels. Boston didn't bother me that much. I mean, it was frustrating the way they lost that final game. To me, it's the Angels. That's the one.
Make up for the Angels.
Yeah.
Because the Phillies game made up for like one game. So we got
one Angels.
So we got to win one game, or no, 2 games to make it feel like we won 2 out of 3 against the Angels. If anyone wants to have that kind of twisted thinking.
Exactly.
Well, that's gonna do it for us. Thank you very much for watching. And once again, if you're gonna go to that Mariners game, use the promo code JS Trident for your $20 off, because I'm pretty sure you've used my codes by now and you beat it like a dead horse. So let's give J Trident Podcast some love. Save your $20 so you can save $20 on food, because my God, food's expensive these days. Like when I look at my receipt just for one meal, $20 freaking dollars. So why not use the code so you can have basically a free meal for yourself?
Love it. Appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. Yeah, go to the game. Hopefully bring home some Mariners W's with the code as well.
Yeah, let's get those wins. All right. Well, thank you very much for watching. Have a good night or day, and go Mariners.
Go M's.